Yes, and the next segment is not a presentation, it's me having a discussion with Mattia Ratagi about regulations in crypto. Hi, Matti.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for inviting me, and hi everyone.
Good. So, I know that you're not that known in Nordics or in Sweden. So, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, with pleasure. So, briefly about myself, I am an economist by education. I was an academic until 32 years old. I then had a banker career in a big bank for 20 years. There I focused on risk, regulatory and governance matters. And then since 5 years, I am a happy entrepreneur, specialized in crypto and blockchain businesses. And I'm dedicated to basically advising the development of business from scratch until they reach a stable startup status. Also, I like to focus more vertical on governance and regulatory space. Maybe the other thing I will add is that since always, I'm always very interested in giving my input for the ecosystem. In the past, it has been risk control and risk management. Now it is more the crypto ecosystem with a view to contribute to get something that is sustainable and delivering value to the society.
Yes, and you have co-founded Seba Bank and set up from scratch the crypto investment manager Ficas AG. Can you share a little bit about your lessons from this experience?
Yes, also with pleasure. It has been a great learning period for me the last 5 years. If I sum up a few points that are really important, maybe some obvious, but when you experience them, you feel them for their all mass. Yeah. So when you meet and work with visionary entrepreneurs, then you realize it's very much like putting together a rocket to shoot it to the moon. What do I mean by that? It's very important that you position the project at the beginning very accurately, because if you don't do that, it's like missing a little bit the angle of your rocket, and you will never get to the moon, right? So positioning at the beginning, spending time, working out the appropriate setup to begin with is very important. The second thing I think is be maintain a pragmatic attitude. Be ready to change, because the journey is gonna be, even if it is directionally perfect, the journey is gonna present you with a lot of surprises first, but second, also you can't begin with full resources immediately. You have to. It's a pragmatic job where you add whatever you need in the appropriate sequence at the right time. So this is very important. This positioning, this attitude, and also when you work with people, you have to be risk taker, definitely, because you don't know exactly what will happen, but also self-denial, somehow, and passionate. So at the end of the day, the team spirit is also very crucial. There is no space for noise. The spirit team must be there. So I think these are my lessons from my experiences so far. Really.
Okay. But regulations as itself, doesn't it kind of defeat the purpose to regulate crypto?
No, no, not at all. I think this is a short-term view, which incidentally also had it at the beginning,
Mm.
but I think it's wrong. No. Uh, you know, that when we want to an ecosystem to develop and to deliver some benefits to the society in terms of new products and more efficient processes and also new jobs, etc. You realize that you need to come to terms with the regulators, because this is the key to get it to the mass. So I believe there is no mass adoption of crypto, and in particular in finance, I should emphasize, without agreeing with the regulators. And this for me is very logical, because when you grow in mass crypto business, you begin, you open it up for illicit activities. And if illicit activities get big, this is not good for the society. The second point is that you want to protect the investor and the consumers. because if one person out of 10 million gets screwed up, it's a pity, but if 50% of the society gets screwed up, it's not good. So I think this is what we have experienced, by the way, so far. And I would say that the interest of the regulators that they have shown starting 2017 has been actually very instrumental in getting crypto where it is now.
Okay, so I'm talking about regulations then. What regulation trends do we see in the world? For example, China has banned crypto, or banned Bitcoin.
Yeah, again, that is fortunately, even if the history of regulation in crypto is quite short. It started in serious in 2017. Before, there is a trend that is quite clear. So I think the regulators overall, with some exception, but overall have been very supportive. And they have taken the view that they should put together a framework that will support the further development of crypto finance applications. I insist on crypto finance application because the technology application of blockchain have been unanimously supported. I know of no exception. In finance, you have this illicit activity component and this danger for the consumers and investors that needs to be taken into account. That's what, let's say, the positive regulation is all about. Now you had over time, and most notably lately, as you mentioned, China. You have attempts to ban cryptocurrencies. I would call it to ban decentralized finance, because Bitcoin is also a decentralized finance application, and this is why. Well, I think it goes hand in hand with the political regime. I suspect. In fact, China has never banned, and in the contrary, it has supported the technology very much. They even also were the first, one of the first to develop a E1, so a central bank digital currency, basically. And also the last point regarding China that comes to my mind, it's very important to see that the ban that made the headlines a few weeks ago is not the first. I mean, they have been trying at least 2 or 3 times to issue such ban. So it means it's not so easy to implement, right? And this goes back to the centralized aspects and basically internet-based aspects of crypto and crypto finance.
Yeah, because in a way, crypto is set up so you can't ban it because it's decentralized. So it's not like it's not a regime who can say like, oh, you can't use this because they are not holding the control over the currency as itself. So
Yeah.
have you seen the ban as like successful, so to speak?
No, no. In fact, they have repeated the intention to ban. So I think over time, of course, they will be successful. There are devices. I mean, at the end of the day, you can heavily control internet with the IP address and everything. You can probably achieve some real ban. But I think I will want to play down the importance of China, of course, and that's why the fact that they support technology is very important. But overall, the regulators have taken another stance. They have said, let's try to set up a framework that provides or educate or favor or support the good side, the good use cases, right? The one that will benefit the society and take on, bring under control the rest.
Yeah, and you were in on this also when we spoke a little bit about China, the EU1, and what is your take on that central banks creates their own cryptocurrencies? Yeah.
Yeah, the central bank digital currencies, this is a universe in itself. I mean, it's quite interesting to remember that I think it was 18 in autumn, where we all face a strong interest and reaction from the regulators following the first global stablecoin project from Libra. Yeah? I think this was a wake-up call, historically an important wake-up call for the central banks and the authorities to say, wow, wait a moment, here there is something that obviously is perceived as very inefficient and outdated because the private sector is taking initiatives to, by themselves, basically. And I think this was very important. And since then, also you have to consider that the dematerialization of money is going on anyway, irrespective from being crypto or not. So I think it's very good what the central bank have been doing. I think the central bank digital currency will come. It's just a technological trend that will be there at some point. It's not so easy, of course, and therefore they take the right time, I think, to study all the facets, because money is it's like the heart of the economy. So you have to, when you touch at it, you better be very careful what you do, right? So this is it's a positive momentum. I am more skeptical, if I may say so, out of my own analysis about the ability in the short term to have central bank digital currencies from a cross-border perspective. I think domestic is something. I think cross-border brings in other layer of difficulties, which is why at the end of the day, a global stable coin have still a huge potential and a fantastic use case, also in connection with potential cooperations with nationally, domestically based central banks digital currencies. So there is a whole universe there which is very attractive, has the potential to deliver a lot of good things, and presents fantastic use cases.
Yeah. As you said, like when Libra was announced, do you think the central banks got kind of like fire under them to like, okay, we need to have our own also currency, because giving that much power to an association that is connected with a private company such as Facebook would be giving too much power to a private company.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is actually a portion or an element that has to do with the project Libra at that time in itself, which I think was somehow designed to fail, because I don't think that you can start out day one with a huge IT basically company having a lot of individual information, potentially opening up as of day one billions of users. This is too much of a step for the first step. Okay. I think the solution will come more bottom up, where things can be developed and adjusted. Again, the discussion I did at the beginning, the startup, the idea, become a startup, pragmatic, check it out, correct, position it well. This is how it should be done, I think, to be at the end of the day successful. Otherwise, the big bang, in fact, it didn't happen yet, right?
Yeah, okay. So, in when we are talking about Libra, or they changed the name to DM, we should be correct about that. They withdraw from the Swiss regulations appliance and went with domestic and US. Is that because they want to be closer to home, or is it because their currency is mostly constituted by USD, or how do you see that? What's your analysis on this withdrawal?
Yeah, I think I have no inside information. I'm just an observer here. What I have observed is that I think the regulators have been telling loud and clear, like that you can't start, and therefore this, the question was to do. What do we need to do now? I think the project has been changed, not only in name but also in content and specifications, to get it somehow adapted to one currency only, which is, I think, the US dollar, according to latest information. Still, I haven't seen it, so it's not started. Somehow it became very quiet as well. When I think about that project, for me, it's more really historical at the point. Until I won't see won't see it happen or see news, I still think that that it should not be, it is difficult to get it accepted, let's say so, as promoted by straight away by a super big tech and with such a high number of potential users at day one, etc. I think it should be more bottom up and pragmatic.
Okay. So because in the DM association there are more companies, not just Facebook. There are, for example, a Swedish company, Spotify, and other companies that is joining and has put in, well, millions of dollars into it. Do you think that is more hindrance of the DM coin to be adopted, because that will change so much. Well, for one example, you need to exchange millions or billions or trillions of dollars in to have some coverage of that in the stablecoin.
Yeah, I think probably you know more than me about it. It's just good. I think the impact is just too big as of day one to be accepted so quickly, because as you said, it can probably put in motion a lot of changes in the current system, and the amount of dollar, as you rightly pointed out, that would need to be changed, etc. And this is too much of an impact, I think. Much better to begin with small steps.
Okay, so it would like be putting a whale in a small glass of water, kind of speak.
Somehow.
Yeah. So one other thing that we have in crypto regulations, or well, a different view on it, it's the classification of crypto and Bitcoin. For example, the US have among their institutions 4 different classification of it. IRS says it's a property for federal tax income purposes. The Treasury says it's a currency. CFTC calls Bitcoin a commodity, and then US SEC says cryptocurrency is a security. Is this a hindrance for actually creating regulations that is working on all aspects of the financial system, so to speak?
Yes, short answer, yes. I did an analysis a few months ago, and I found out that, again, today, there is no uniform definition or accepted definition, which is uniform across the boards for cryptocurrencies. And not only that, but the diversity is still very pronounced between countries, but also within a jurisdiction like the US, where they have multiple regulators. And this difference of status, only even for Bitcoin, is of course not ideal. It is an hindrance. It creates confusion. It creates possibility of arbitraging around. So it is unfortunate that it's still like that, but it's probably a sign that it's not so easy to come to a consensus. So it partially is also driven by regulatory approaches at the domestic level. All the financial regulation at the end of the day is jurisdictional. So you have huge differences in what constitutes a security, what does not constitute a security. And even when it comes to Bitcoin, with a unique reality globally, still you have different interpretations, and therefore, it's not ideal. I don't know. It didn't progress a lot so far on that point, and let's hope at least that at the international level there is some guidance that provides some clarity and uniformity around the topic. That would be certainly very good.
Yeah, so would you say that one first step in regulations would be like unison between maybe the European Union and America's nations to like decide what actually is crypto?
Yes, I would tend to agree. At least there should be, the more uniform the approach is to it, if not the definition, but at least the approach is to it, the better. The better for the business side, because we are entrepreneurs, and if we want to do a business and we face a lot of uncertainty because in one jurisdiction is like that, in the other is different, in the third one we don't know, and the fourth one it may change tomorrow. That is difficult. It's a difficult situation to do business anyway, irrespective of being crypto or not. So these are operating conditions that, the more they are uniform and stable, the better.
Okay. And about this, we talk about European Commission has proposed a market in crypto asset regulations, MiCA, to protect consumers. What is your take on this? Is this hurting or better for cryptocurrency companies?
Yeah, I have also actually analyzed that. It was very interesting, probably 1 year ago, if I remember well, when this was put out. And it was a welcome, it is a very welcome news, because until then, Europe had progressed more, in a different way according to each state. There was Germany very active, France as well, but other member states were not active at all. So it was an approach more state by state, which again is not very helpful if you want to operate European wide. And therefore, this was very welcome to see that the European Union had taken a union approach. Now, the approach, maybe we should not be too critical because it's such a good news at the end of the day, but the approach, as I read it from a Swiss perspective in particular, came across to me as heavily administrative or heavily bureaucratic somehow. I mean, it is long documents with a lot of prescriptions that, if you are a small entrepreneur and you want to start your business in Europe, crypto business, you are impressed by all this. You say, wow, how could, I don't understand half of it. How can I comply to that? You get a bit afraid when you see that. I'm not sure that it is conducive to easy development of business by small entrepreneur, because this is what it is all about. So from that point of view, hopefully the implementation will be more pragmatic,
Okay.
like it has taken place in Switzerland. And also what I found the pity is that the time horizon given in these papers for approval, for comments and approval, is pretty long. It's long. It is in terms of several years. And, this environment is very dynamic. Such a long timeline is not optimal.
Yeah, like 2 years in crypto is like 20 years in normal financial services.
Right now, yes, because it's the beginning. It's an industry that begins.
Yeah, exactly. And on that take on what the European Union and like the thought about crypto, for example, we have Christine Lagarde and Jamie Dimon from Goldman Sachs saying that crypto is trash or crypto is funny business. What is your take on their approach to crypto?
Yeah, obviously, I mean, they made the headlines because these are important person in the political, economical arena, and therefore, they're highly influential. I think what they say is probably still what the majority of the people think, because crypto is still something very black and white. If you get into it and you begin to like it, you forget about the rest, and vice versa. So it's bipolar still. The bridging of the traditional words with this innovation, which is at the end of the day a technological innovation, and therefore it will progress and invade basically all the aspects, I believe, in the medium term. But this discussion is still, and the point of view is still very, very bipolar. Also, it doesn't help that actually, if you want to talk about crypto and blockchain, you actually have to first understand what it is. It's not a quick win. So from that point of view, again, it takes time for people to get acquainted with it, interested with it, understanding that there are positive use cases and increasing a lot of good potential, and not to stop the thinking at the usual, by now, usual arguments of dark web, illicit transaction, just gambling, Ponzi schemes, etc. These are also quick conclusion, but not very deeply thought through. So, I don't know whether they do that to protect their business. Can also be from bank perspective. If you want to preserve, obviously, a disruptive force, you have to speak a bit about the disruptive force. But we have seen recently that things are changing very fast. There is an adoption taking place at an increasing pace in the financial sector. It was very good, yeah, a milestone event for me last week to learn that the Bank of America had issued a research report around crypto of 250 pages where they really go into deep. So, this was not possible 6 months ago, frankly. And therefore, in 6 months' time, we will be again in a different place.
Yeah. And do you think, so to speak, the regulations that has begun, we can say that China's regulation is very against crypto and trying to hindrance it and keeping the power within the, what do you say, centralized financial system. Would you say the most of the regulations coming out from EU and US is not hurtful for cryptocurrency, or is it like trying to actually help the adoption of it, but in a safe way?
Exactly, exactly. I think you have China who bans crypto. Also, I think Qatar, for instance, and a few other countries worldwide. But you have the large majority, which is a growing majority, actually taking the view that the regulatory framework should only be geared to disincentivize the bad use cases and the bad consequences for investors and consumers, but should support all other use cases. This is the way Switzerland, in Europe, in the US, it seems to me they're going this way as well. Again, new this year at the federal level. So, and in the other countries as well. There's been a tremendous adoption of crypto during the last 5-6 months in Central and South America, and also in Africa, which just add to the number of countries that have pronounced themselves in principle positive towards this.
Yeah, it's kind of like a hen and egg. Like these countries like South Africa and South America and Africa need cryptocurrency because their hyperinflation in their countries is like deteriorating their value. But also they need kind of access to internet and everything like that. So they need infrastructure. So it's kind of like you need you need both to escape the country's poor currency. And what do you see there? Do you see somewhat that Africa is helping this, or do you see that the country is very protective and say like, okay, we are not allowing cryptocurrency because you're taking away the power from me?
No, I don't think in Africa there is such a stance. And obviously, you put it right. I mean, one of the best use case where people can really benefit from digital money and even decentralized crypto finance are the people where the infrastructure, digital infrastructure, or also the traditional infrastructure is less developed. It's fantastic in a country where maybe you are underbanked, to reach in a traditional way to reach a desk it takes miles. It's very good in such a country to have the possibility going forward to bank with your phone, with your iPhone, and at the same mobile phone. At the same time, it's also very easier in a country that have got not that sort of infrastructure with cables, transmission. So like we have in other countries, it's maybe easier to set up an infrastructure that is directly digital. So the inclusion, the financial inclusion, this is the expression that usually we use there, is very high in such countries. So, and therefore the use cases are very powerful, not only economically but also socially.
Yes, and one thing we just finished off. One thing that AML and KYC came from is like big events like 9/11 and such, like big events that is causing regulations in finance for like anti-monitoring and such. Do you think that the court case with Ripple Labs and SEC in US could be like that catalyst with higher regulations in crypto?
Probably, yes. I mean, most of the court cases in the US where enforcement approach is very pronounced, were always emerging from this, idea that basically a lot of new instruments are securities from a legal point of view, and therefore, if not underpinned by or licensed even by under the auspices of such regulation, that's where they got then enforced, right? And also the protection of the investors, of course. I think that usually, well, not usually, but hopefully that such important protocols like Ripple, so they will find a way to correct their positioning or to find an agreement with the regulators to continue to flourish again. So you were saying whether this will lead to more regulation. Maybe this will be one of the steps that is needed to calibrate the regulation.
Okay, super. That was all the time we had, Mattia. So,
Oh, so fast.
so fast.
Okay,
So, thank you for your answers on this topic, which is really interesting. And have a nice day.
Thank you to you, and thanks to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.